Let's just start with this. This comes from a real clinical case study. It's about a man, let's call him Alfred, who was so paralyzed by anxiety that he couldn't even touch a telephone at work. And why? Because he was convinced his boss's, well, his gluey defilements were stuck all over everything. Now, this isn't just some minor quirk, right? This is a life-altering condition. And it makes you wonder, what invisible force, what deep-seated rule could possibly drive a fear so specific and so powerful?
Well, the answer, believe it or not, isn't just buried in a modern psychology textbook. It's actually rooted in one of the oldest, most fundamental organizing principles of human society, the concept of taboo. So today we're going to unpack this ancient code to see how it's still secretly running the show, shaping our societies, our minds, and even our deepest, most private anxieties.
So we have Alfred as our first piece of the puzzle. But let's add another, a woman named Laura, a very successful journalist, who is literally wasting away from anorexia, convinced she's invisible to her colleagues. Now, on the surface, these two cases look worlds apart, but as we're about to see, they are both tangled up in the exact same invisible web.
And to see that web, we have to look past the symptoms and examine the ancient framework underneath. We need to start thinking about taboo not as just a list of don'ts, but as a powerful world-building system that has been with us since the dawn of humanity.
So what is a taboo, really? Well, it's so much more than just a simple rule. Think of it as a process, a kind of symbolic container that every society uses to draw a line in the sand. It's the mechanism we use to separate the world into two fundamental camps, what is clean and safe, and what is polluted and dangerous.
And at its very heart, this is how taboo works. It creates these powerful opposites. On one side, you have everything that holds society together: order, cleanliness, safety, the things we know. And on the other side, well, you've got disorder, pollution, risk, the great unknown. Every single society maps its reality using these coordinates, and taboo is the force that polices that border.
Okay, so we've got the what, but what about the how? How does it actually work? What's the psychological engine that gives these ancient rules such a powerful grip on us, even in our modern world?
The answer, according to the great anthropologist Sir James Frazer, is something he called sympathetic magic. Now, don't get hung up on the word magic. This isn't superstition. It's a kind of pre-scientific logic. It's a belief system about the hidden connections in the world, and it basically runs on two main principles. The first principle is imitative magic. The idea here is simple. Like produces like. So, for example, Eskimo boys were forbidden from playing cat's cradle. Why? Because the tangled string might cause their harpoon lines to get tangled when they grew up. The second principle is contagious magic, and this one is really key. It's the belief that things that have been in contact once remain connected, forever. This is why so many cultures feared that a sorcerer could use your discarded hair or fingernails to curse you. In this worldview, contact creates a permanent, invisible link.
And then the anthropologist Mary Douglas came along and added this absolutely brilliant layer. She argued that dirt isn't really about hygiene. Dirt, she said, is simply matter out of place. Think about it. Shoes aren't inherently dirty, but if you put your shoes on the dining room table, they suddenly become dirt. Why? Because they've crossed a boundary. They've violated the system of order. Dirt, then, is simply the evidence that a line has been crossed. And this brings us right back to poor Alfred. Our bodies, you see, are the ultimate boundary systems, and our orifices, our mouths, our noses, they're the gateways. So any matter that crosses that boundary, like saliva or blood, becomes incredibly potent and dangerous. It was once us, but now it's not us. It's ambiguous, it's matter out of place. And this is why these substances are so often perceived as sticky. They symbolically represent this contagious, inescapable trap.
Now, so far, we've talked about taboo as a pretty neutral system for creating order. But this system has a much, much darker side, because it can be, and has been, weaponized to create and enforce some of the most brutal social hierarchies imaginable.
So how does that happen? How does a fundamental human tool for making sense of the world get twisted into a justification for cruelty, for oppression, for violence?
Well, the anthropologist Edmund Leach gave us a chilling insight. He pointed out that beyond categorizing animals as pets, livestock, or game, there's a fifth taboo category: vermin. Now, vermin aren't just animals you don't eat. They're animals that must be eradicated. And here's the terrifying leap. Leach showed how this category was extended to include undesirable persons. By placing a group of people into the same mental box as rats and lice, the logic of taboo provides the psychological permission to exterminate them.
And make no mistake, this is not just some abstract theory. The miscegenation taboo, the historical prohibition against the mixing of races, is a perfect, horrifying example of this in action. It frames entire groups of people as impure, as a source of contamination. This deep-seated fear of social dirt has been used to justify everything from discriminatory laws to racism and, at its most extreme, ethnic cleansing.
So now let's take this incredibly powerful framework, this blend of anthropology and psychology, and bring it back into the clinic. How do these ancient patterns of pollution and broken boundaries actually show up inside an individual's mind today?
Modern attachment theory actually gives us a fascinating parallel. It describes a state called disorganized attachment. I want you to imagine this impossible biological paradox. A small child is terrified. Their instinct, hardwired, is to run to their parent for safety. But what if the parent is the one causing the terror? The instinct to flee and the instinct to seek comfort collide head-on. There's no escape. The system crashes. Psychologists call this a state of fright without a solution. The mind is literally trapped in an unsolvable problem.
And right here is where it all comes together. This modern psychological trap is a perfect mirror of the ancient terror of a broken taboo. Alfred's obsession with sticky contaminants? It's the outward symptom of a mind that is stuck in that state of fright without a solution, torn between a need for his father's love and a terror of his father's rage. And Laura, with her anorexia, is acting out the same logic. She treats food as a contaminant, a dangerous pollutant crossing the boundary of her body. Both of them are trapped in a modern-day ritual of purification.
But is that the end of the story? Are we just helpless prisoners of these ancient codes and our own histories? Well, the research points to another possibility, that the very things we label as dirty, as polluted, might actually hold the key to our own transformation.
Take this powerful dream from the author of one of our sources. He dreams of a rubbish bin, expecting it to be full of city garbage. But when he looks inside, instead of filth, it's filled with rich, dark compost. And new bulbs are sprouting from it. The metaphor here is just profound. The rubbish we throw away, our fears, our traumas, the parts of ourselves we label as dirt, it isn't just waste. It's prima materia. It's the fertile ground from which new life, new growth can emerge.
And that leaves us with one final, and I think, vital question. The systems of taboo, both in our culture and in our own minds, they force us to label parts of our experience as matter out of place. So we have to ask ourselves, what valuable, potent, and life-giving parts of yourself have you been taught to discard as rubbish?